In this part of the module, we'll be looking at how to unpack Part A of the essay question. Explain the factors that can affect the volume of FDI a country receives using the CCCA approach. The main learning points in answering this question are identifying and understanding the key determinants of FDIs, as well as how these factors affect the level of FDI a country receives. As always, before tackling an essay, we'll need to use the CCCA method, otherwise known as command, content, context, and approach, to unpack the question. In this question, the command word is explain. This tells us our essay needs to display an explicit cause-effect relationship between the determinants of FDI and the level of FDI received by a country. As this is a 10-mark essay, the content of this essay requires at least two determinants of FDI and a detailed explanation of how these determinants influence the volume of FDI received by a country. As there is no context, such as a specific country or region, given in this question, you should set your own context for a complete explanation by giving your own relevant and real-world examples. The approach to answering this 10-mark essay question is to fulfill at least two major requirements. The first one being a detailed explanation of how the first individual FDI factor affects the level of investment, and the second one being a detailed explanation of how another individual FDI factor affects the level of FDI received. And if you have time, you could write an optional third requirement when adequate explanation of how a third individual FDI factor influences the level of investment is sufficient. With those major requirements in mind, this slide shows the rough skeleton of what your essay should look like. In the introduction, it's good to define key economic terms and set the direction of your answer by showing a brief overview of your essay. Your R1 will explain in detail how expectations of firms affects volume of FDI, and your R2 will explain in detail how government policy affects FDI. Meanwhile, your optional R3 will explain briefly how a stable macroeconomic environment affects FDI volumes. It's good to note here that we do not use interest rates as a determinant of FDI. This is because foreign investors are likely to come with their own source of money to invest and not borrow funds in the country they intend to invest in. Lastly, you have to write a simple conclusion to wrap up your points. Unlike a 15-mark essay, the conclusion here does not require a stand, substantiation, and something special. In the next section of the module, we'll look at writing the Part A essay in detail.